Let's get started on this. Twitch CEO explains how they deal with high-profile bans after Hasan's suspension. Twitch CEO has admitted it's tricky at times when it comes to banning streamers and has also lifted the lid as to whether he has the power to suspend channels. Twitch bans have been a hot topic within the live streaming community. Streamers have called on Amazon-owned platform, blah, 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 blah. Speaking to Business Insider's Peter Kafka for his Channels podcast, Clancy revealed that some bans are tricky to do. On a VOD platform like YouTube, you can edit something or take something down. It's hard to sit there and talk for 6 hours straight and not step over the line, he said. It's 6 to 8 hours trying to make sure you don't step over the line. So it's the fact that sometimes people step over the line and you can't just edit it as you would on a VOD platform. I don't think it's contentious. It's just tricky for both them and us to make sure, look, we keep it within the guidelines. So we have to see when somebody steps over the line and do something to make sure they don't step over the line consistently. That's a pretty good approach to it, I think. Obviously, people will not take this seriously, because they've already made up their minds on Dan Clancy specifically and also Twitch specifically. I will say, like, regardless of my criticisms of Twitch or my immediate criticisms of Dan Clancy, I think that, like, for example, I don't like that he streams so much. Okay? That's one thing that that's my own personal opinion. You might not agree with it, right? I'm not like the biggest fan of that because I feel like you're opening yourself up to a lot of attacks in general. Right. And yet him doing streams, unironically, I think, allows him to get a better understanding of the product and the content creators themselves and like what they go through. Does that make sense? There are some issues as far as like the app, you know, the Twitch app is like kind of garbanzo and they're trying to fix it. But as a CEO, I think like Ford CEO also drives a Ford. No, Ford CEO literally does not drive a Ford exclusively any longer. He's now driving a fucking Yangwang, I think. But yeah, as a CEO, it's still good to understand like the service that the platform is providing. The Twitch boss also noted that he personally does not decide on anyone's ban, be it hand one out or lift an existing suspension. We have a team that does that. It's not automated. I'll be aware of their decision for certain high-profile streamers, but it's not my decision because the whole point is to keep some degree of separation. That came off the back of being asked about HasanAbi's recent 24-hour ban. It also was revealed by Twitch streamer Amaranth that Clancy did, however, get a shadow ban on her channel lifted. So they asked him about me getting hit with the 24-hour one. At 6:58, the reporter says you were clearly not doing
support for this show comes from Smartsheet. Have you ever
guys? We clearly have shooters out there in the journalism. I do control the media, okay?
You're watching on the biggest channels because those are the ones you've heard of, right? And on a big channel, it is the fact that chat flies by. The magic of Twitch is on the channels of like, there'll be somewhere between 200 and 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people watching, 4,000. And chat doesn't fly by as fast then. Then you can really see chat, you recognize names, and the other thing is
you're closer to being on a message board.
It's yes, and also you're dropping in once, okay? Part of it is you come again, and again, and the analogy I often use, now I'm playing to my own generation, is back to the TV show Cheers.
I'm familiar.
Where everyone knows your name, and you show up in a chat room that you go regularly, and everybody screams out your name if you haven't been there for a while and says, Norm, where you been?
Yep.
Right? And you feel like you belong and that they're happy to see you.
Always glad you came.
One of your biggest streamers, Hasan Piker, someone I'm familiar with. I've interviewed him. He's got a caustic edge to him.
Yep.
He was recently suspended on Twitch.
That's cool.
He was making
That's a cool way to, damn. He said, I got a caustic edge to me. I like that. Damn, journalism is not dead, folks. Let's see what he says.
The point about healthcare. He was sort of extending a metaphor that involved killing Rick Scott, the U.S. Senator. He wasn't calling on people to kill Rick Scott. But he's making a metaphor. He was suspended. Apparently, he's been suspended multiple times. First of all, how does that work? How do you get suspended at Twitch? Do you get...
Damn, I can't believe an adult in the media. I cannot believe that an adult journalist in the media who has spent a good deal of time studying communication, using language, covering the news, did not have the same exact attitude as like a Libs of TikTok or a fucking Asmongold on this issue. But of course, those are the guys who are gay and woke and wrong, and the based patriots are the dudes who don't leave their homes with YouTube channels. And it's not just Asmongold. I'm talking about like the way that a lot of Americans approach this issue nowadays, and their media consumption is like, no, every single person that's a fucking nerd is wrong, and they're just like, they have a secret political perspective and they're woke, and that's why they're sheltering this person. Yeah, I'm just shocked that this journalist would actually report on what truly happened instead of immediately being like, well, this freaking terrorist Hasan, okay? I call him HasanAbi. Some people call him HasanAbi. I call him HasanAbi. Why the fuck's he still on the platform? Or let alone in the United States of America? As a journalist for Business Insider, I say, get him out of here. As a matter of fact, get them all out of here. Are you actually surprised, though? You apologized and admitted the words were hyperbolic? No, I was never surprised for being banned. I'm just showing you that, like, people do understand the difference. Like, they're, especially adults. There are still adults out there. Because I think the more we look at just, like, right-wing commentary online and how much that has devolved throughout time, we get a false notion. That, or a false sense of reality that, like, everyone is incredibly stupid. And I don't think that's the case. I think that there are still intelligent people out there, and you can't like lose sight of that. You can't forget that there are normal humans out there who also look to, like, Elon Musk Sig Heiling and don't immediately rush to defend him. There are plenty of normal people who see that and go, oh, that's it. I'm done. I'm writing this guy off. There are normal people out there who are still intelligent, careful, considerate, maybe not like super knowledgeable on an issue, but don't immediately just like fly off in the most reactionary perspectives. That's what it is, right? We need to remember that. We need to remember that there are people like this in the media. There are people like this all around us. And I think I sometimes lose sight of that because I've read too much Asmongold comments. You know what I mean? Like Asmongold YouTube comment section. And I think when you stare into that darkness for an extended period of time, you end up developing a false interpretation of like what our fellow citizens are like. Not to say that there aren't truly people like that, and those numbers are growing, especially online, where there's just like an incredible amount. There's a definite like crisis of intellect, a crisis of critical thinking, a crisis of nuance in this country, for sure. But I do think that, you know, it's not as severe as we think it is. Okay, this is seemingly
get involved when it's a high-profile person. Is this automated? How does that work? And how do you get reinstated?
Yeah. So first of all, they're indefinite. I'm not indefinite. They're for a given period of time. They're not indefinite.
It's sort of a timeout.
It's a timeout. It's a timeout. So think of it like that, right? And all it is try to make sure people stay within the guardrails, right? And so the idea, of course, is, you know, look, if someone goes outside the guardrails a little, give them a little bit of timeout. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to work hard to stay within, you know, the community guidelines. And we have a team that does that. It's not automated. You know, I'll be aware of their decisions for certain high profiles, but it's not my decision, because the whole point is to keep some degree of separation, right? Where they're trying to make what is a consistent decision on the platform.
And it seems like it's an ongoing theme for many of your big name folks, that they constantly are sort of, not constantly, but often are pushing the limits, getting in trouble, getting booted, getting reinstated. And then there also seems to be sometimes a question of, did the streamer say something? Was it one of his fans saying something? Was it someone off camera saying something? How do you?
Yeah, I think it's like Twitch still as a medium is somewhat new, right? And a lot of normies don't entertain the idea of like tuning in to a broadcast for like 6 to 8 hours a day. So they have no way of comprehending how you can easily manipulate language and take advantage of the nuances of any kind of statement, let alone political statements. That's pretty much it. It's just like, it's very difficult to fully understand what a person's perspective is when they're talking about political issues for 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and then you're just reading what they have to say through 12-second clips. It's just not. You're never going to understand a person's perspective that way. It's virtually impossible. And because people don't really know what this medium looks like in general, a lot of people get duped. I get duped. And I'm in this field, you know what I mean? I'm in the heart of this, and I still get duped sometimes. I'll give you a high-profile example of this. There's that guy, the Black Captain America or whatever. Like there's a tweet out there with like 100,000 likes, and I didn't even see what he actually said. This is what I want to show you in terms of context, in terms of like how we operate, right? Anthony Mackie has a 1 minute and 45 second response here where he talks about, I guess, like masculinity. This person said, it feels so real to finally be being given a reason to hate him. Pivot podcast. For the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They've killed masculinity in our communities. At Anthony Mackie, right? Star actor Anthony Mackie has soared to the highest levels of Hollywood, but one thing he really doesn't play about is raising his boys to be young men. He talks to, okay, when I saw official Crowder, I was like, Steven Crowder, what the hell? He talks to these people about how he keeps them humble. He brings them up with respect and responsibility, but strays from society's trend of what they are trying to make young men think and feel, right? So let's hear what he had to say and whether he worded this or weirdly or not. And we'll see if he was clipped out of context.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids.
None of this is controversial so far. He's literally just saying that he doesn't like the flashy, he doesn't like the flex culture that he sees, especially for younger generations online. I agree with that 100%. Let's see.
And no, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years.
This is such a funny, this is like the most old head podcast, by the way. It's like, I don't know anything about this podcast, but it's like, as soon as it panned over to the host, I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
We've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always, since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. Mm. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, you know? And so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
Hold up.
Okay, so it comes across as like kind of right-wing, right? And apparently the context of this, like it's not that controversial, like what he's saying, but immediately, like if you are tuned in to that frequency, if you know what like right-wing commentary and right-wing statements look like, yeah, it's understandable that people will go, oh, he's talking about like male bravado, like the pussification of like American men, like, because when you make a statement, there are a lot of things that you're not saying that you're operating off of, like underlying premises that you're operating off of. And that leaves a lot of room for interpretation for people. And if people are conditioned into recognizing right-wing sentiment, they hear this and they go, oh, this guy's a fucking real right-winger. Like, what do you mean? He's doing the classic, like, oh, kids are gay now. Now, what is ironic about this was that what he was actually talking about, apparently, because I saw someone else show the full context of the conversation, was literally about unlearning homophobia because he has a gay brother, and he also personally played the role of a gay man. Like, so he's not like the conversation. Yeah, this is the thing I saw. Yeah, if you bother to watch the whole interview, you'd hear Anthony explain how he stepped out of his comfort zone to play the role of a gay man early in his career to understand his gay brother better and not repeat the same homophobic attitudes he grew up in the South. Like, it's just what's interesting about it is like this happens in every medium. This is just like a cultural thing that we all love to do. We hate when our enemies do it or our perceived ideological interlocutors do it. And then we love doing it ourselves. And sometimes we earnestly get duped by this stuff. We earnestly get duped by this stuff. We get clip chimped.